Hi guys, it's Elissa at Moat Cottage, the small space homesteading channel. I've been getting a lot of questions about the location I live in and how much land I actually have. And so I thought I'd answer these questions in a video so we could talk about homesteading wherever you are. I guess we'll start at the beginning. And my homesteading journey was a little bit backwards. I started off on 200 acres, moved up to 1,000 acres, and then I ended up back in a small rural town, which is where we are now, and we're on a 1/6 of an acre, but we have access to the block next door, which is also a 1/6 of an acre, so the ducks and chickens can roam around in there and eat the grass when there's grass available. The town where Moat Cottage is has about 3,500 people in it, so it's classed as a small town, and we are in rural Victoria in Australia. I am pretty lucky because I do have 200 acres that I can still go hunting on that's nearby and walk my dogs. And then there's bushland up in the hills that's not that far either, so we can go have a swim at the waterhole or just go hiking if I had the energy. When I started out homesteading over 25 years ago, like I said, I was on 200 acres and I was very isolated. So I didn't have access to television, we didn't have a telephone, mobiles weren't even a thing unless they were great big bricks, and we didn't have one. There was no internet, so I couldn't Google for information, and I didn't really have many books at all on the topic because I didn't even know what homesteading was. There was no word for it in Australia. I was living this lifestyle and I felt like I was the only one living it. So when I moved to Moat Cottage, the first thing that moved here was my compost, because I actually wanted to take my compost pile with me as well, the soil, and you know, because that's gold. Like if you love composting and you compost, you know, it's like, I can't leave that. Like that's the beginning of a new garden, that's life and that's food. I can't remember if I ended up taking it, but I definitely moved the compost in before I moved in. When I moved to Moat Cottage, I only brought one chicken with me. I rehomed the rest because I had young children and a baby, and it was all new. We didn't have infrastructure set up, so we really just needed to bring the basics of what we had so we could set up slowly. And I think that's really important, that you don't try and do everything straight away. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was trying. So we built up slowly. And once you get all your fencing set up and the infrastructure, then it does make it a lot easier to establish what you want to be doing in the spaces. Obviously, money is an aspect of homesteading when you're setting up the infrastructure and buying the food for the animals and all of that sort of stuff. You have to take that into account. You know, you can't do everything because you just don't have the money to throw at all these projects that you want to be doing when you're setting up. So I found ways to get around this, and that is by going to the tip and getting scrap out of the scrapyard. So old star pickets and rolls of wire. So that's how I've managed to get my fences up higher. I've also managed over the time to pick up corrugated iron, which is really handy and has come in handy for different projects around the homestead. So once the compost was here, the infrastructure was starting to be set up and evolved over the years, obviously. Gardens were going in. We had no garden beds here, so garden beds were going in, and obviously the vegetable garden was a high priority, and that just started off with some wood in a square and lots of compost put into it, and the soil dug up, and straw and newspaper and all sorts of good stuff was put in there, and the vegetable garden was born. And then we got a dog. So more infrastructure was required, and that was star pickets and wire, and then we got another dog. So now it's Fort Knox, what you've seen in my videos, and I can post a past video of how we built that because I've actually got some footage of that. We can go back in time and have a quick look at that. It's a good idea to plant as many fruit trees as you can early on, so long as you can look after them and keep the water up to them, and they're not going to get damaged with different infrastructure, or if you're building or whatever you're doing on your property, that you can look after these trees and they're not going to get damaged. It's a good idea too, so that they can be growing and getting fruit. I have 8 different citrus trees here. One was already here, and that was the big lemon tree that you may have seen in some of my videos. The rest of my citrus trees were in pots for years. They started off small and I just kept them in huge pots because this is a rental. I didn't want to commit to putting trees in the ground, and we were getting citrus off these trees for years before I eventually decided we're going to put them in the ground, because there's only so many years, you know, before you feel like you need to get them out of the pots and give them some more space to grow. So now they're in the ground and we're still here and we're getting the benefits from them. So looking back, I probably should have put them in the ground straight away, but I didn't know that I was going to get sick, and that slowed our journey down a little bit, because yeah, when you're sick and you spend most of your time in bed, you're not out working, earning money to save for your, you know, your dream property. So that's changed the journey a little bit at this point, but that's, you know, the way it is. So I guess my point to the video is that it doesn't all happen at once when you're homesteading, and you can't always be on 1,000 acres, or if your dream is even 5 acres, you can't always be there. So you have to do what you can where you are. Don't wait. Life's too short not to follow your dreams. Learn the skills you want to know and practice them. The cool thing about homesteading is that there's so many subjects to learn about, and you're always learning. It's amazing what you can do on a small property and what you can produce. The main thing is to use what you're producing. So if you've got a couple of chickens and they're laying eggs, make sure you use those eggs, and then use those shells in the garden, or put them in the worm farm or the compost. And if you're growing food and you get a good harvest, then preserve some of the food for later. If all you can do is grow lemon balm on your windowsill because you're in a unit, then use that lemon balm for lemon balm tea, or to make a tincture so that you can help anxiety when someone needs it. Or if you're growing aloe vera, use it for burns. Make sure you're using what you're producing. There are definitely differences in living in a small space. You have to really think about every bit of land and what its use is. And there's a lot more planning that goes into the space, I think. You just don't have that leeway. And when you see that goat that you want, you can't have it. Wherever you are on the journey, and whatever the journey is for you, whatever that looks like for you, whether you have health challenges and that really slows you down, or whether you are just busy because you're working 3 jobs, it's still doable. It's still doable. I'm so grateful that you've clicked on to watch this video, and if you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. Most of my videos aren't just talking to the camera about life and vlogging. Most of my videos are educational videos where I'm teaching you different skills. And I look forward to discussing the topic further in the comments with you, and hearing about what you're doing with your homestead, or where you are in your journey, or what your dreams are for your future in the homesteading life journey. If you found this content valuable and would like to learn more about small space homesteading, then make sure you hit subscribe and click the bell so YouTube updates you. Thank you so much to the regular viewers. I'm so humbled that you click in every week to watch, like and comment on the videos, and I love that you all support each other and answer each other's questions as well, and support each other on the homesteading journey. You guys inspire me, and I love hearing all your ideas, stories and homesteading updates. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.